obviously you have kids yourself. What's your approach with kids? Do you try to sort of encourage this, or how do you balance that out with them? I know I talk to a lot of parents that have a lot of problems. They want their kids to get the benefits of these sorts of diets, but they don't want to push it on them. They don't want to have them sort of revolt and push back. What's your approach with your own children?
Well, I mean, I think educating your kids on, first of all, that nutrition does matter. It's really important. It has a huge impact on, as you know, overall health, mental health, performance, confidence, all those types of things. And so I just, just from an early age, I've taught them that nutrition matters. I taught them how to read labels when they could read. I said, look for things that have, a bunch of junk, if it's got too much sugar or too much of this. And so they were reading labels at whenever 5 years old, 6 years old, whenever they started reading. And, I mean, they understand that, meat is extremely healthy. They focus on that. That's something that's non-negotiable at our house. It's like, you're eating, and it's usually not a struggle. I mean, they usually like it. I mean, they have different. One kid likes this more than that, and one kid prefers steak. One kid prefers, fish, and so I try to, balance that out with them. But they eat a lot. They eat a lot of meat. My daughter, like I said, my daughter she's an eighth grader, just won the state championships for 400 meters. She ran a 101, which is pretty
Oh
damn
wow,
fast time for an eighth grader. And so, I mean, you look at, I was looking at the, for a D1 scholarship, you have to put up a 57. She's at 101 in eighth grade. So, I mean, she got to take 4 seconds off, and she's just starting track.
wow.
And with her, I remember specifically, she was a kid that from a very early age, and all my kids were doing strength training at young ages. 5, 6 years old, they were throwing the medicine ball around and jumping, and lifting dumbbells and stuff like that. That's been a part of their life from early on. And as you probably are aware, I mean, the literature showing that weight training for kids is bad is it's non-existent. I mean, it's the
Mhm.
opposite. I mean, it shows that their athletic performance level is going to be better the earlier they start strength training. Now, again, it's got to be supervised and structured and not doing stupid stuff. But I mean, given that, with those caveats in place, I mean, it's wonderful for kids to get stronger. And so, and then nutrition builds upon that. And you just kind of, and you set the example. The other thing is, being, they see, it doesn't take long for them to figure out, hey, why is Billy's parents so obese, and why are they always tired? And then, why are you guys so on the run and fit? Well, it's because we eat nutritious food.
Yeah.
And so that's been my approach. And, I don't, like I said, I don't necessarily force a diet on anybody, but I mean, like I said, I'm not going to at the same time, if some kids, you just let them eat, they would eat nothing but ice cream and cookies all day long. And obviously that's not sustainable. I mean, that doesn't make sense. And yet there's parents. I mean, I get this. Parents will say, "Well, my 3-year-old refuses to eat anything but cheddar goldfish and
Mhm.
garbage." I'm like, I mean, he's a 3-year-old. You know, he should not be dictating the nutritional policy of the house.
Yeah.
I guarantee if you just let him get a little hungry, he'll eat whatever you put in front of his face eventually. Particularly if it's nutritious real food like meat or eggs or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is just not having that available in the house. Like the 3-year-old's not doing the shopping, and and they're not. It's not like a teenager who can go out and maybe buy their own food. They're 3, and so it's you dictate what happens in the house, and you can just not have that be available in the house, or just really slowly wean it off. I would imagine. I mean, I don't have kids, so it's easy for me to say that you could just do X, Y, and Z. And I've never actually had to do it, but I would imagine that there are ways, and especially with someone who's quite young.
Yeah, I mean, when you're really young, you generally, when they're really young, you generally have 100% control of what they
Mm,
what they eat. As they get older, of course, when they go to school, then you can't monitor everything they do. But like I said, that's where you give them the education early on, and you start from an early age and let them realize that nutrition has such an important role on basically your life's trajectory. I mean, if you come out of I mean, there's so many kids that are coming out, 14, 15-year-old kids that are either they're clinically obese, or they're pre-diabetic, or they're depressed, or they're anxious, or they have all kinds of issues, most of which are directly attributed to their nutrition. So, I mean, if you can just kind of show them that these are the things that make a difference, they generally will get it, I think. And, again, the other thing is knowing how to cook. I mean, as a
mm,
parent, I mean, this is a skill. I mean, if your cooking skills are basically limited to opening a package and pressing a button on a microwave, I mean, that's not very good parenting in my view. I mean, I think you need to know how to make food taste good.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things too, is the, different, people have suggested. I know, Dr. Robert Lustig has written about this, about how, the food industry has basically manufactured it. So we've had generations of people that didn't grow up with a parent that was cooking, and so they didn't then learn how to cook as well. They had all these prepackaged meals that were actually cheaper than buying the constituent ingredients and then making it yourself. So it was like saved you 3 hours in the kitchen and it cost less. And so we were like, well, have to be stupid not to do this. And then all of a sudden now all of a sudden you have like a whole generation of people not cooking, and the kids are growing up not learning how to cook. And then they grow up into adults, and their kids certainly aren't going to learn how to cook from someone who doesn't cook. And then then now you're beholden on the food industry to cook your food for you. And yeah, and then people are stuck. But it's actually quite satisfying, to cook, and to cook a meal that's actually very, very tasty, and better than any restaurant. I mean, it's not that hard either. I'm sure like the steaks that you make are going to be better than any any steakhouse that you
Yeah, I
care to
mean,
go to.
yeah, I mean, most, I mean, you go to one of these super high end top ones and spend, $300 on a
Mm,
steak or some ridiculous amount, and you get a pretty nice steak. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of, we had Mother's Day the other day, and I'd made a nice reservation for a brunch for my better half, and she said, honestly, I'd rather you just cook because you do
yeah,
better than what they do. And she's very particular how she makes her steaks, and so I get it just like she wants it. And every time we go to a steakhouse, she'll get there and it's like it's not cooked like she likes it, and she's just like, I'd rather stay home. So yeah, I mean, and it's as on a carnivore diet, God, it does not take a long time. I mean, it's the simplest
mm,
thing in the world. I mean, it's just, I mean, it's minimal time. I spend so little time cooking and eating. It's not the 3 hour commitment to do stuff when you're making these elaborate recipes, and so, but even if you're doing that, to put a kid to give kid eggs for breakfast, some scrambled eggs. I mean, literally, it takes you 2 minutes to make scrambled eggs in a pan. I mean, it's very fast. I mean, it's not much quicker to pour a bowl of cereal. I mean, it's arguably you're saving a minute or two, but I mean, for the amount of nutrition you get, I mean, it's not even a contest.
yeah, absolutely.